Because I spent a few minutes in the bathroom during work hours, my $7,000 paycheck shrank to just 1,200. I went to my boss to demand justice. He leaned back in his leather chair, wearing a fake smile that didn't reach his eyes. The surveillance footage from last month shows you spent a total of 40 minutes in the restroom, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. I assume you weren't closing deals in there, were you? New company policy. Every minute in the stall cost you $100. As a senior employee, Leo, you should be setting an example. I actually went easy on you with the math. I have been the backbone of this company for 5 years. I had personally brought in deals worth over $100 million. Now, my most basic human rights were being stripped away for a power trip. Well, I didn't immediately blow up. His smile turned cold and sharp. If you don't like it, leave. You really think we can't find someone to replace you? And don't forget, your 5-year non-compete hasn't expired. No one in this city would dare hire you. I didn't argue. I just looked at him, knowing my contract actually expired in exactly 5 days. He had no idea how much he was about to lose. Wouldn't stop running his mouth. Leo Bennett, you've been with us for years. You should know the rules by now. Do you have any idea how hard it is to find a good job these days? I'm treating you like an old friend by just cutting your pay. Anyone else would have been fired on the spot. We're both men. I know exactly how long a trip to the bathroom should take. I couldn't help but let out a dry laugh. For 5 years, I had lived and breathed this company. I worked late, every night obsessing over every contract. Countless competitors had tried to headhunt me, offering to pay off my exit fees. But I stayed out of loyalty. Even with 5 days left on my contract, I had been planning to renew. But looking at his smug face, I realized how delusional I had been. He tossed the insulting paycheck at my chest. It fluttered to the floor. Think it over. You staying or going? I picked up the paper, my expression completely flat. I understand I won't use the bathroom during work hours again. He blinked, clearly surprised that I was rolling over so easily. But seeing me look defeated, he let out a triumphant chuckle. That's more like it. Don't waste a single second of my time. As I walked toward the door, he threw one last insult at my back. I don't get why these low-level workers try to act tough. In the end, they always come crawling back like dogs just to keep their bowls full. I hate people who put on a show. I clenched my jaw and walked out without saying a word. Outside the office, the rest of the team was buzzing with the excitement of payday. When they saw my face, the chatter died down. The new intern, Luke Miller, who also happened to be the boss's nephew, swaggered over to me. Without asking, he snatched the paycheck out of my hand. Whoa, Leo. Only 12, he shouted, faking shock. That's less than my new sneakers cost. I thought you were the MVP of this place, man. You've really hit rock bottom. He raided the slip of paper around the office, mocking me. Did you screw up a big count, Leo? Did Silas finally get tired of your attitude? One of the senior admins, Brenda, put a hand on my shoulder. Leo, what happened? There has to be a mistake. I forced a tight smile. New company policy. $100 for every minute spent in the bathroom. The room went silent. Brenda looked confused. What are you talking about? I've never heard of that rule. My heart sank. My suspicions were confirmed. All right, everyone, listen up, Silas Miller shouted as he stepped out of his office. He looked around the room with mock authority. We have a new policy, $100 fine for every minute spent in the restroom. We tested it out on our team lead, Leo, this month. The results were great for productivity. So we're rolling it out to everyone starting next month. Also, some people shouldn't think they can boss others around just because they've been here a while. Follow the rules and do your own work. He patted my shoulder with a heavy hand. Leo is a team player. He's taking one for the team, right? I stood there paralyzed by the sheer audacity of it. He was targeting me specifically. He only docked my pay and then used me as a scapegoat to intimidate everyone else. But Silas had a very short memory. He forgot my 5-year contract was up in less than a week. And he forgot that I was the one who had been doing his nephew's work for months. If he wanted to play dirty, I was done being the nice guy. I pulled out my phone and replied to a message from our biggest rival. Zenith Solution. I'm leaving in 5 days. I'll be there on Monday morning. The recruiter at Zenith was thrilled. They didn't expect me to flip so fast. Being cautious, I asked about the compensation package. The reply came back instantly. Don't worry about the money. Just bring your talent, and you can name your price. I let out a long, slow breath. The weight on my shoulder started to lift. Spent the afternoon working in normal pace, without my usual bathroom breaks. My efficiency actually dropped because I was so stiff. But hey, those were the rules. Around 5 o'clock, a coworker came over to ask for help with a difficult client. Usually I would have jumped in. I always believed that if the company did well, we all did well. I used to burn myself out to make sure every deal went through, even if it wasn't my responsibility. But after being fined for a basic human need, I finally realized I was just a number to them. Why should I kill myself? For a man who wouldn't even let me pee for free? I looked at the coworker with an apologetic shrug. Sorry, I can't help you with that. Why not? We really need your magic on this one. Didn't you hear the boss this morning? I'm on a tight leash. If I'm not helping you, he might think I'm slacking off. My paycheck is already a joke. If I lose any more, I'll be paying the company to work here. I've got to look out for number one now. He looked stunned, but didn't push it. He just walked away looking defeated. At exactly 7 o'clock, I shut down my computer. I didn't stay late to fix anyone else's mistakes. My workload felt incredibly light for the first time in years. It was amazing how much stress disappeared when I stopped caring. I walked out of the building with a spring in my step. The evening breeze felt incredible. I didn't even call an Uber. I just grabbed a city bike and headed toward the grocery store. For 5 years, I had barely seen the sunset from outside my office window. I had been living in a cage. I built for myself. I got home, cooked a real meal, and took a long hot shower. No pre-packaged salads, no cold takeout. I had developed chronic stomach issues from years of stress, drinking, and skipping meals for clients. That ended today. I was going to take care of myself. I was just about to look up some recipes for tomorrow when my phone started vibrating like crazy. Missed calls, Slack notifications, group texts, everything was blowing up. I opened the group chat. It was a sea of red notifications. Leo, answer your phone. It's an emergency. Silas is losing his mind. Where are you? Right on cue. Silas Miller's name flashed on my screen. I waited a few seconds, then answered. The screaming started before I even got the phone in my ear. Leo Bennett, where the hell are you? You left before finishing the report. That's another $1,000 deduction. I kept my voice calm and steady. Check your facts, Silas. My assigned work was finished. I sent the files to the whole team before I left. Actually, out of respect for you, I stayed 5 minutes past 7. But don't worry about paying me for that overtime. I'll consider a gift. We're both men. I know how hard it is to run a business. I'm a very reasonable guy. Silas, you know that. I hung up before he could respond. It felt better than any bonus I'd ever received. The silence on the other end of the line was like the calm before a hurricane. While I waited for the next explosion, I scrolled through the office group chat. Apparently, without me there to hold their hands, the big deal they were working on fell apart. The company lost a massive contract, and the CEO had personally called Silas to rip him a new one. Since I wasn't there to handle the overflow, everyone else's workload had doubled. Couldn't handle the pressure. The entire office was in a state of total chaos. They only realized how much I actually did when I stopped doing it. I set my phone to Do Not Disturb and went to bed. The next morning, I walked into the office at exactly 9 o'clock. Not a second early. Silas was waiting for me. He put on a fake friendly face. Leo, we aren't running a prison here. No need to run out the door the second the clock strikes 7. You've never left before 9 p.m. in 5 years. What changed yesterday? Be honest with me. If you have a problem with my leadership, we can talk about it. Just didn't realize a grown man could be so sensitive. About a little pay cut, I felt a cold smirk forming in my mind. He was finally feeling the heat. He didn't want to fire me because I was too valuable, but he wanted to keep me under his thumb. He thought he could bully me into staying because he forgot my contract was expiring. I kept my face neutral. I don't have any problem at all. Silas, we've worked together for years. Why would I hold a grudge? He seemed relieved, but then he immediately pivoted. He took a pen and marked another $200 off my tally on his clipboard. Saw the Lao. I told everyone yesterday that we had to be in early today. You weren't here, so you're late. I opened my mouth to argue, but he cut me off. Oh, I forgot. You weren't here for the late night meeting because you left early. So you didn't hear the announcement. Next time, check your messages after hours. Don't miss the important stuff. Got it. He said the last 2 words with a heavy, threatening tone. It was a clear power move. He tossed a thick folder onto my desk. I'm heading out for a business trip. You're taking over this account. It's a new bid. The client is a tough one, but you've handled them before. I wanted to lead my nephew Luke through the process. Make sure he gets the win next week. We're bidding against Zenith Solutions. Be there for the final presentation when we win. Don't try to steal the spotlight. Give the kid a chance to shine. Okay. He didn't even wait for a reply before heading to the elevator. He was playing a clever game. He wanted me to do all the hard work so his nephew could take the credit and eventually take my job. He had always been jealous of how much the CEO respected me, wanted to phase me out, but he didn't realize today was Tuesday. My contract expired in 3 days. I wasn't going to touch that folder. In 3 days, I would be working for the competition. I wasn't going to leak trade secrets. That was illegal, but I was definitely going to let them fail on their own. Be at that bidding meeting, Silas. I whispered to the empty air, but I won't be sitting at your table. Luke Miller walked into my cubicle and grabbed the folder. I followed him out, and he immediately got defensive, thinking I was trying to take charge. Look, Leo, this is a big deal, he said, puffing out his chest. My uncle said, I'm a lead on this. You're just the assistant, so stay in your lane. I felt a massive weight lift off my heart. I've been trying to figure out how to distance myself from his project. The kid had just done the work for me. Later that afternoon, I started planting seeds around the office. Brenda, I said loudly enough for Luke to hear. I heard this new contract is the biggest one of the year. The CEO is watching it personally. Whoever closes this is basically guaranteed a massive promotion and a huge bonus." Brendan nodded along. Luke didn't say anything, but I saw his eyes light up with greed before the end of the day. He came to my desk. "Now, since I'm a lead on this, I've decided I don't need your help," he said arrogantly. "I'll tell my uncle I handled it solo." I pretended to be furious. "Luke, what the hell? You're freezing me out? If this goes south, are you going to blame me?" He got flustered. "Fine. What do you want?" I smiled. "Sign this. The formal statement saying that I had zero involvement in the bidding, the pricing, or the strategy for this project. That way, if you win, the glory is all yours, and if you lose, it's not on me." He hesitated for a second, then scribbled his name and stamped it with his official seal. I tucked the paper safely into my bag, my golden ticket out. For the next few days, I watched Luke and his little team of sick offense struggle with the bid. I spent my time quietly packing my personal items and documenting everything. I made sure to take screenshots of the group chats, proving I was excluded from the project. Finally, Friday arrived. My contract was officially over. As I walked toward the exit with my box of belongings, several co-workers looked sad to see me go, but Luke was grinning, thinking I had been fired. Walked over to my desk one last time. "Is this the walk of shame, Leo? Did Silas finally kick you to the curb? Hey, if you need a job as a delivery driver or something, let me know. I might have some connections." I didn't even look at him. I just walked out of the building. It was bittersweet, but I was ready for a fresh start. The bidding war was in 3 days. I didn't spend a weekend resting. I spent it preparing for my new role at Zenith. I wasn't just doing this for revenge. I was doing it to prove my worth and secure my future. Monday morning arrived. I walked into the corporate headquarters where the bidding was held, flanked by the team from Zenith Solutions. Luke and his team were right behind us. Before the meeting started, I felt a nervous cramp in my stomach and slipped into the restroom. Because of that, I didn't see Silas and his CEO arrive. By the time I walked into the conference room, the meeting was already starting. I could see the panic on Luke's face from across the room. There were 3 companies competing. The first one finished quickly. Then it was Luke's turn. Silas Miller and the CEO of his company were sitting in the back. Silas spotted me, standing with the Zenith team. "Leo Bennett, what the hell are you doing over there?" He hissed loud enough for half the room to hear. "Get up here and help your team." The silence in the boardroom was absolute. Every eye shifted toward me, then to Silas, then back to me. Silas's face was turning a dangerous shade of puce. He half stood from his chair in the back row, pointing a trembling finger. "Now, did you not hear me? Stop playing games and get over here. You're embarrassing the company." I didn't move. I calmly pulled out my chair at the Zenith Solutions table, smoothed the front of my suit jacket, and sat down. "I'm sitting with my team, Silas," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the quiet room. Next to me, Sarah Harding, the vice president of Zenith, offered a razor-sharp smile. "Mr. Miller, I'd appreciate it if you didn't shout at my new director of strategy. It's highly unprofessional." For a second, it looked like Silas's brain had entirely short-circuited. He blinked, his mouth opening and closing like a suffocating fish. Next to him, Richard Sterling, the CEO of my former company, suddenly sat up very straight, his brow furrowing into a deep, dangerous V. "Silas," Sterling's voice was dangerously low. "What is she talking about? Why is Leo sitting with Zenith?" Silas stammered, the arrogant swagger he'd worn for 5 years evaporating in real time. "He can't be. He has a 5-year non-compete clause. He's our employee. Leo, you are in breach of contract." I leaned forward, resting my forearms on the mahogany table. "My 5-year contract expired on Friday at midnight, Silas, along with the non-compete. I'm entirely a free agent. Or I was until Zenith made me an offer I couldn't refuse on Saturday morning." But you didn't submit a resignation letter," Silas hissed, panic leaking into his tone. "I didn't have to," I replied evenly. "A fixed-term contract requires a renewal. You never offer me one. You were too busy timing my bodily functions with a stopwatch to check your own calendar." A muffled gasp rippled through the room. The executives from the client side, a massive logistics firm, exchanged raised eyebrows. Sterling, the CEO, turned entirely to face Silas, his eyes cold enough to freeze nitrogen. "Timing is what?" Before Silas could stammer out an excuse, the client's lead procurement officer cleared his throat loudly. "If the internal drama at your firm is concluded, gentlemen, we have millions of dollars on the line today. Who is presenting for your team?" Silas swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. He nudged his nephew. "Luke, go. You're ready." Luke looked like he was walking to his own execution. He stumbled to the front of the room, fumbling with the remote clicker. His palms were sweating so much he nearly dropped it. "For the last 5 years, I had built every single presentation deck, run the numbers, anticipated the client's pushback, and rehearsed the pitches until they were bulletproof. Luke had done nothing but copy my files and change the title font. But this time, there were no files to copy. Luke brought up the first slide. It was a chaotic mess of pie charts and bullet points that made zero visual sense. Hi everyone, Luke stammered, his voice cracking. We're excited to partner with you because our company is the best at logistics integration. It went downhill from there. It was a massacre. He didn't know the client's volume metrics. When asked about their Q3 supply chain bottlenecks, a massive pain point they had explicitly asked us to address in the brief, Luke froze. He looked helplessly at Silas, who was frantically typing on his phone, likely begging his team back at the office for answers. But there was no one at the office who knew the answers. I was the one who usually read the 200-page client briefs. What about the fuel surcharge offsets? The client CFO asked, leaning back and crossing her arms. Your proposal states a 4% variance, but the market average is closer to 6%. How are you absorbing that cost without compromising delivery speed? Luke stared at her. We have very fast trucks. A painful silence descended on the room. Someone actually winced. Sterling put his head in his hands. Silas looked like he was about to vomit. Thank you, Mr. Miller, the procurement officer said, his tone dripping with professional disdain. I think we've heard enough. Zenith Solutions, you're up. I stood up. I didn't need notes. I didn't need a frantic PowerPoint. I walked to the front of the room, connected my tablet, and brought up a single clean slide. You don't need fast trucks? I started, looking directly at the client's CFO. You need predictive routing. And regarding that fuel surcharge, the reason we project a 4% variance isn't because we're eating the cost. It's because we've modeled a dynamic hub-and-spoke distribution system that cuts your deadhead mileage by 18%. Let me show you the math. For the next 20 minutes, I owned the room. I laid out a strategy that was elegant, aggressive, and perfectly tailored to their needs. I didn't use a single piece of proprietary data from my old firm. I didn't need to. The knowledge was in my head, accumulated through years of late nights, skipped meals, and absolute dedication to my craft. Zenith had given me the resources to take my vision to the next level, and the client was eating it out of the palm of my hand. When I finished, the client's team was nodding vigorously. The CFO was actually smiling. Brilliant, Mr. Bennett, she said. Truly, we'll deliver it, but I think the direction we're heading is quite clear. The meeting adjourned. As the room began to clear, I packed up my tablet. I could feel the heat of someone's glare burning a hole in my back. You son of a bitch, Silas snarled, marching up to me the second the clients were out of earshot. Sterling and Luke were right behind him. Luke looked like he was holding back tears. You stole our strategy, Silas yelled, pointing a finger an inch from my nose. I'm going to sue you into the ground, Leo. Corporate espionage, breach of NDA. I'll take everything you own. Take a step back, Silas, I said, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous register. Before you say another word, I suggest you ask your nephew about the strategy. Sterling pushed past Silas. What's he talking about, Luke? Luke shrank back. I don't know. I reached into my briefcase, pulled out a crisp, folded piece of paper, and handed it to Sterling. I anticipated Silas would try to accuse me of foul play, I said, looking at the CEO. So last Wednesday, when Luke decided he wanted to be the alpha male, I had him sign this. Sterling unfolded the paper. His eyes scanned the text, widening with every line. A formal declaration, Sterling read aloud, his voice trembling with a mix of awe and absolute rage. Acknowledging that Leo Bennett had zero involvement in the research, pricing, strategy, or creation of this bid. Signed and stamped by Luke Miller, lead project manager. Sterling slowly lowered the paper. He looked at Silas. Then he looked at Luke. The silence between them was heavier than a concrete vault. He tricked me. Luke whined, pointing at me. He made me sign it. No, Luke, I said softly. I just got out of your way. That's what you both wanted, wasn't it? To show everyone you didn't need me? Congratulations. You showed them. Silas was hyperventilating. Richard, listen to me, he pleaded, turning to the CEO. Leo is a disgruntled employee. We had a slight disciplinary issue last month, and he's holding a grudge over a minor pay deduction. Minor? I laughed. It was a cold, harsh sound. I pulled out my phone, pulled up the photo of my final paycheck, and turned the screen towards Sterling. My gross pay was supposed to be $7,000, I told the CEO, who was staring at the screen in horror. Silas fined me $100 for every minute I spent in the restroom. He reduced my paycheck to $1,200. He instituted a company-wide bathroom tax because he wanted to exert dominance, and he used me as the scapegoat. I have the group chat screenshots if you'd like to see them. Sterling's face drained of all color. As a CEO, he wasn't just looking at a cruel boss. He was looking at a massive, radioactive labor lawsuit waiting to detonate. Finding an exempt employee for bathroom breaks was highly illegal, a blatant violation of federal labor laws. You did what? Sterling whispered, his voice cracking. He turned to Silas, grabbing him by the lapels of his expensive suit. Are you out of your goddamn mind? You find my top performer for taking a piss. You handed Zenith a $100 million contract because you wanted to play dictator in the men's room? Richard, I was optimizing productivity. You're fired, Sterling spat, shoving Silas backward. Both of you, clear out your desks by noon. If I find out you've caused grounds for an OSHA or Department of Labor investigation, I will personally sue you for every penny of collateral damage. Silas looked like he had been shot. All the arrogant bluster, the smug smirks, the condescension, it all vanished, leaving behind a pathetic, hollow man. He looked at me, his eyes wide and desperate. Leo, please, Silas begged, reaching out a hand. We've worked together for 5 years. We're both men. We understand how pressure gets to us. Talk to Richard. Tell him I'm a good manager. I'll pay you back the $5,800. I'll double it. Just don't let him do this. I looked at his outstretched hand. I remember the nights I fell asleep at my desk. I remembered the burning pain in my stomach from skipped meals, while Silas took 2-hour martini lunches. I remembered him tossing my paycheck at my chest and telling me I'd come crawling back like a dog. I leaned in slightly, meeting his terrified eyes. I don't get why you low-level managers try to act tough, I said, quoting his exact words back to him. In the end, you always come crawling back like dogs just to keep your bowls full. Silas flinched as if I'd struck him. I hate people who put on a show, I added, turning my back on him. Don't waste a single second of my time. I walked out of the boardroom to join my new colleagues. Sarah Harding was waiting by the elevators, holding 2 cups of high-end coffee. She handed one to me, her eyes sparkling with amusement. I take it the severance negotiations went well? She asked dryly. Flawlessly, I took a sip of the coffee. It was hot, rich, and tasted exactly like victory. The fallout over the next month was catastrophic for my old firm. Brenda, the senior admin, kept me updated via text. Without me there to absorb the workload, Silas's department collapsed within days. Even though Silas and Luke were fired, the damage had been done. The environment was toxic, and the illusion of stability had shattered. Once the rest of the team realized the bathroom tax had gotten the boss fired, the fear evaporated, replaced by intense anger. 2 days after the Zenith bid, half the senior staff walked out. Brenda herself took a job at a tech startup. Sterling tried to salvage the accounts, but the logistics firm wasn't the only client I had deep ties with. Over the next 3 weeks, 4 more of their biggest clients quietly declined to renew their contracts, citing a drop in service quality. Every single one of those clients ended up bringing their business to Zenith Solutions, directly to my desk. I didn't even have to poach them. They called me. As for Silas, the industry was smaller than he thought. Word travels fast when a senior director gets fired for violating human rights in the workplace. His reputation was incinerated overnight. About 2 months into my new job, I was walking back from a fantastic lunch at a steakhouse, paid for by the Zenith corporate card, no less, when I heard a familiar voice. Now, I paused on the sidewalk. Sitting on a park bench, nursing a cheap paper cup of bodega coffee, was Silas. He looked a decade older. His tailored suit was gone, replaced by a rumpled jacket and jeans. The smug aura that used to surround him had entirely dissipated. He stood up, taking a hesitant step toward me. Now, wow, you look good, he said, his eyes darting to my new, tailored suit and the expensive watch Zenith had given me as a signing bonus. I feel good, Silas, I replied neutrally. How are you? He let out a bitter, hollow laugh. I've been blacklisted. Richard Sterling made sure of it. Every firm I apply to suddenly goes cold after checking my references. I had to sell my condo last week. He looked at me, a pathetic glimmer of hope in his eyes. I heard you're a VP at Zenith now. You're building out a new division. I know we had our differences, Leo, but I'm a hard worker. You know I can manage people. If you could just put in a word for me, maybe a consulting gig. I stared at him. The sheer audacity was almost impressive. After treating me like livestock, after trying to steal my dignity and my money, he was asking me for a lifeline. For a brief moment, I felt a flicker of pity. But then I remembered the hollow feeling in my chest when I saw that $1,200 paycheck. I remembered the utter disrespect. Sorry, Silas, I said, my voice calm and polite. Zenith has a very strict company policy. We don't hire liabilities. I didn't wait for his response. I turned and walked away, merging into the bustling afternoon crowd. When I got back to my spacious corner office with a view of the city skyline, my assistant buzzed my intercom. Mr. Bennett, the regional directors are ready for your presentation in conference room A. And just a reminder, your doctor's appointment for your final stomach checkup is at 4 p.m. tomorrow. I've already blocked out the rest of your afternoon, so you can go home and rest afterward. I smiled, looking out at the sun gleaming off the glass buildings of the city. Thanks, Claire. Tell them I'll be right there. Before I headed to the meeting, I took a detour. I walked down the hall, stepped into the executive washroom, and locked the door. I splashed some cold water on my face, looked at myself in the mirror, and took a deep, relaxed breath. I stayed in there for exactly 10 minutes. It didn't cost me a dime.